Well, I'm going to show on this technique video how to use the gathering foot. Because we have multiple ways to get gathers. The traditional way would be to run basting stitches, pull the bobbin thread, or then we could also just to couch over a cord and then just to pull those cords, and this works great on a heavier fabrics. Or of course, serger makes one of the best ways gathers. But for lightweight fabrics, it is also a great way to get lots and lots of gathers. This little strip of fabric that ended up only about, I guess it's like 10 or 12 inches long, was actually 44 or 42 inches strip of fabric across the bolt. This one is a very fine voile, and I just showed rows and rows, and in some points kind of how to keep them totally straight. But this is just using the foot, straight stitches, there's no bobbin threads pulled afterwards, that all is done at one go. So this is where the gathering foot comes really handy. So this foot, it relies on the fabric punching up, because the foot is kind of a little a ballerina. It stands on tiptoes, and that way there's nothing behind the needle that will keep the fabric flat. So it starts punching up behind the foot. This foot we can just gather it, or I can gather and attach at the same time. Like on this one in here showing it's been attached also. Of course you could always attach it afterwards, but we can do that all at one go, and that's what the picture on the bottom shows. So in this one we're gonna be using just a straight stitch, but the trick is more tension will give you more gathers. Other one also is to keep in mind that this relies on fabric puckering behind the needle. And if you have a really stiff fabric and heavy fabric, you don't get any gathers with this one. So light to medium weight works the best, and softer the fabric is, it works better. Meaning, do not start your fabric super stiff when you do this one. Again, otherwise you won't get any gathers. So let me go and set up in the machine to show how this cool foot works. Here's the gathering foot, and it is a low shank foot, which means on my machine I need to use the adapter. So again, I just need to take my ankle out and put the adapter in place first. So that's just, again, if you have a low shank machine, you can put it straight onto the machine, just taking that normal ankle out, and then we can mount it on this one. On my case, I had to use the little adapter. So any other high shank machines, you would do that. And I love using this little screwdriver because it allows me to keep a little bit of a easier control on that little screw. I loosen that one, put my foot on it, and tighten the screw. So now I have my foot attached. And I'm gonna select just a straight stitch on this time. And other tricks what I like to do is, longer your stitch length, more gathers you get. So I'm gonna go my stitch length all the way to the 5 millimeters, and I'm gonna increase the tension to about 7. There we go. Straight stitch, I just have needle at the center position, and stitch length at 5 millimeters and tension at 7.0. So if I just want to gather this fabric, I will put it under the pressure foot, and because I have a long stitch length and I'm using embroidery threads, which are very slippery. Partly I'm using just really contrasting color that they show well in the camera. So I want to anchor this top thread on top and bobbin threads first. So I'm just gonna hold down my securing button, the reinforcement button that stitches in place. So that way it's all anchored. So all I have to do now is just to start stitching. And because this foot is kind of standing on its toe, so this behind the needle, that part, there's nothing to keep it flat. So it will start gathering. And one of the things that does help on gathering, if I put my finger behind there, it kind of lets it kind of punch up a bit more. See what the difference it made. Stack it down a bit there too, and then I cut the threads. So here we go. Oh, just curled up really nicely. So this was just to kind of a lining polyester material. So it just gave really nice gathers just on its own like that one. And then if I want to do more rows and rows, the first row is kind of easy. If I want to do a second one, don't try to go too close to the previous. Leave at least 3/4 of an inch to an inch between. It's much easier to guide it because otherwise you'll end up sewing over those folds. Well, how do we use this foot to attach it into another piece? Well, this time I have a little bit longer piece that is going to be my ruffle. And then I'm going to use this edge, I'm going to attach it onto this piece. If you wanted to do a double one, again, lightweight fabrics give you then better results on that one. But press them first wrong sides together and sew these edges together. And you may want to use a serger or overcasting stitch or zigzag to overcast that raw edge too. But definitely need to press these edges together or paste them together. Otherwise, if I just put them underneath, the bottom layer is the one that the fabric would gather, so the top layer would kind of shift. So they need to be anchored. I'm just doing a single layer for this one. But now instead of using the needle at the center position, I'm going to put it far left. And I'm going to again lengthen the stitch length to 5 and put the tension to 7. Because this time if I attach it to another piece, I need to have as much space on this part, because underneath the fabric that's going to be gathered, I can put the foot on top of it. But the piece that it gets attached will go this little slit. There's a little slit in there on that foot. And I can't go beyond this part because the metal part. So if I have my needle at the center position, I barely have any seam allowance. That gives me at least a little bit more seam allowance, about 1/4 inch there. Again, I'm going to just and often what I do, I put my ruffling part, kind of use the side of the foot as a guide, so that way I can see that I'm not losing that underneath, especially these very slippery fabrics. Again, let me just stack it in place. And then I'm going to hold one fabric with one hand and the other one with the other one. When I was teaching this in the shop on one of our Foot of the Month classes, I usually always tell that this is the time that you need to be able to tap your head and rub your belly at the same time. Kind of having to keep these two fabrics together, because I can't hold them like this one. I can't keep them together flat. I need to guide them separately. And the important part is that I don't hold this bottom fabric tightly, because if I hold it taut, it's not gonna let the feed dogs to punch it up. The top fabric, I can actually hold it a little bit more taut. Actually, tighter I hold it, more gathers I get on my bottom fabric. So in this case, I want to kind of guide, and also other thing is that this tends to wander off easily. So I need to watch. So don't watch the needle. Watch this edge for the top layer so it doesn't wander off. And then on the bottom, I kind of use the side of the foot as my guide. See how it kind of wants to start going off the edge. So I almost had to kind of pull it almost kind of towards the right side a bit. Oh, time to keep my hands away from the camera. I didn't do very good on that last part. So now, look at that, little Barbie skirt again. So I was able to attach and gather this piece at the same time. I really got a lot of gathers because I was holding this top layer a little bit more taut. So very great way to do home decor or anywhere you need to attach a ruffle.